With growing awareness of narcissism and narcissistic traits and characteristics, it's easy to label people as being a narcissist. It's easy to label difficult people, challenging people as narcissists. It's easy to question whether we ourselves are narcissistic individuals. However, not everyone, including yourself, when you're having a moment of selfishness, when you might potentially be rude because there's some devastating news that you've just received, that temporary moment of road rage because you're in a rush and you've got things on your mind, being emotionally unavailable because there's things that are happening in your life right now, that doesn't necessarily make you a narcissistic or make somebody else a narcissistic individual. When there's a lack of consistent manipulation, they're not a narcissist. True narcissist, manipulation is a way of life. Someone who occasionally lies or tries to get their own way isn't a narcissistic individual. Somebody who continually lies and denies all knowledge of their lies and stomps their feet every time they don't get their own way, sulks and falls silent, is more likely to be a narcissistic individual. Having genuine remorse. Narcissists do not take responsibility for their actions. It's not their problem, it's not their fault. The only time it's their problem is if there's going to be negative consequences for their actions, which is why they find a way to shift the blame and play the victim. If someone can sincerely apologise, recognise when they've made a mistake, reflect on their mistakes, change their behaviour, they likely don't have NPD. When empathy actually exists, narcissists lack true empathy. When somebody is genuinely capable of compassion, understanding and emotional connection, they're not a narcissistic individual. When emotional growth is possible, narcissists resist self-improvement because they believe they're superior. They already believe that they're the best, so why should they have to improve? Someone who is open to growth, to therapy, to feedback, is unlikely to be a narcissist. Someone who goes into therapy to manipulate is more likely to be so. When there's no patterns of abuse, narcissistic abuse follows cycles of idolization, devaluation and discard. If a person isn't repeatedly harming others and they don't fit the pattern along with the other behaviours, they're not a narcissistic individual. Someone can follow a pattern where they fall for a narcissistic individual, get trapped in the cycle and struggle to break free. However, once they do break free, they're looking for the growth. They're looking for self-improvement. They're questioning themselves. They're analysing things. They're trying to work out what happened so they don't repeat the same mistake. When there's no extreme sense of entitlement, while many people can be selfish now and again, narcissistic individuals demand special treatment and become very hostile when they don't get things their own way. There's that temporary selfishness versus a personality disorder. So people can go through selfish phases. People can be focused on a career goal, focused on their family, focused on some time for themselves, especially in times of stress or hardship. A narcissistic individual's behaviour, however, is ingrained and it's long term. While narcissistic traits can potentially exist on a spectrum, when it comes to true narcissistic individuals, it's a pervasive pattern of behaviour. It's who they are as a person. They lack the empathy to care about others. They feel entitled to have everything their own way. They will exploit people to get their needs met. They're incredibly envious of others, believing other people are envious of them. They're arrogant. They're grandiose. They don't believe that they are the issue. They think that everybody else needs to change to serve them.